Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll learn Masechtas Horiot, Daf Beis. We're starting the new Masechta with, of course, the Mishnah on Beis Amud Aleph. So Horiot has to do with being Moira Hara, having to do with giving a psak, which comes from Beis Din, and sometimes they may say the right thing, probably most of the time, but sometimes their psak may be erroneous, they may make a mistake. And therefore, based on that, we begin our Mishnah. Let's say, not that I just violated something in which b'meisa would be kares b'shogeg, I'd be chayev to bring a carbon chatas kavua, a carbon for my wrongdoing. But what happens that the reason why I did what I did wrong was because it was only through Horiot Beis Din that they basically told me that I was allowed to do this action. So in that situation, when it comes to any of the mitzvahs, now the reason why I ended up doing what I did was only based on their erroneous psak. Says Rashi, now, chaylev is a non-kosher fat, as opposed to shuman, which is a kosher fat. So for whatever reason, let's say they said that chaylev is allowed to be eaten, which of course it's not kosher fat, or blood is allowed to be eaten. Of course they would never paskin this way, but it's just telling us something in which they're the ones that told you that it was allowed. And therefore you went and you did exactly as they did. Now, bein shasu v'asu imahen, whether you did it and the Beis Din did it too afterwards. In other words, says Rashi, Kagon she'achol dam o chaylev imahen, that you ate it and they ate it as well, right? It was all done together. So in that situation, the Mishnah is going to continue and discuss exactly what the din will be. So, furthermore, ben shiasu v'yasi acharehen. Let's say the Beis Din did it first. Either the Beis Din did it after you, or the Beis Din did it before you. But both of you ended up doing the avera. Ben shlo asu v'yasa. Maybe only he did it. In other words, the Beis Din, ben shlo asu Beis Din, as Rashi says, but v'asa hayachid al piyam, the yachid did it. So in all these situations, potter memnei shetol Beis Din. It's only in a situation when many do it. This is a yachid. So if many people would do it, then there will be a chiyuv of par helm davar shel tzibor. But over here, and we're going to see what exactly it means, rove, the majority of Klal Yisrael. There's actually three different possible ways that can be interpreted. We'll see how that is when we get later on. But again, says Rashi, your patmul havi kisva useira. You don't have to bring a carbon, sheep or a goat. Hoyel v'tol Beis Din v'asal pm. Since they're the ones that told you to do it, and you're just a yachid, you're one person, so therefore you're not chayiv. Okay. However, says the Mishnah, Horiot Beis Din, let's say Beis Din paskins, again, you're out to eat blood. And someone knows from the Beis Din that this is a mistake. Oh, Talmud, even if it's a Talmud, but he actually has enough capacity, he could paskin himself, because he's able to be moira hara. And he went from the court, the asal pihen, and he ended up doing this based on their words. Says Rashi, v'holach oiso echad or oiso talmud v'asal pihem shita b'mitzvah shita, because he made a mistake. Mitzvah shmoy divrei chachamim conversion gemara. There's a mitzvah to listen to the words of the chachamim. So bein shiasa v'yasi mehen, bein shiasa v'yasa acharein, bein shiasa v'yasa, doesn't matter again if you did it before the Beis Din, the Beis Din did it before you, or that only you and not them. Harizechai mimnei shlo tolo b'Beis Din. in this situation, since he knew they were mistaken, so therefore he wasn't toyel b'beis, he knew that it was wrong, right? So then the kash is, so if that's the case, so why is it b'shoigeg, right? So that's what Rashi is alluding to. Okay. Zeklal. Hatoyel ba'atzmo chayiv. V'atoyel b'beis din potter. Again, this is referring to a yachid. This is not when a whole tzibur makes this mistake. So, if you have one person that listens to the psak of the beis din, so then they're going to be potter. However, in the situation where you listen to the beis din, but the truth is you are not the one that is really believing them because you know they're wrong, so then you're really doing it on your own accord, then you would be chayav to bring either a kisva or seira. Okay, says the Gemara. So Omer Shmuel Oyla main based on chayavin. The beis din is never going to be chayav in the event again when the majority of the people or Gans Klai, so the majority of the people end up listening to them, in which there'd be a chiyav of a parham davar shel tzibor ad sheyarmu lehem until they say quote mutar natem that you're allowed. Says Rashi, l'oylam mahavi gamar hara the l'chayv carbon. You're not. It's not considered to be like they completed their hara until the beis din says to the tzibor mutar, you're allowed to do this, which basically is giving them a license to be able to do this thing, which is saying that it's allowed, even though of course it wasn't. And then the whole Gans Klai will do it, or the majority. Avdemi minarda omer ad shirmel him until they say quote mutar matem la sois. He says that it's not considered to be a hara until you mamish say la sois to do. So my time lafi shloi nigmar hara, because until you say la sois, the hara, the psak hasn't taken place. Omer Abaye, so often anamatanina. We also have support to this. Why? As it's brought down in Perak Ilhein Hanechnokin, Chazul Iroi Shanavlimid Kederch Shalimoid Potter. So this is referring to a Zakin Mamre. So a Zakin Mamre who contests the words of the beis din and he ends up going to the Sanhedrin. It's necessary that he ends up being Moyer Hara. Says the Gemara, but Chayzl Iro, let's say he goes back to his city, Shanav Alimid Kederch Shalimid, and he goes back and basically repeats the way that he said before, then Potter. However, Hayra La Sois Chayev. Once he mamishes Moira Hara, that's when he's considered to be a Zakin Mamri. So therefore, it's only once they say Mutar Matem La Sois, they actually have to say in order to be chayiv, just like by a zakin mamrei. Amar of Abba Afanam and Tanina. Furthermore, we also learned in addition to this elsewhere, it says Hayrula beis din l'hinase, that the beis din paskind that this person is allowed to get remarried. Says Rashi al pi eid echad de'i b'shnei eidim lo tzarich beis din. So if there's two witnesses, obviously you don't need a beis din to say that she can get remarried, that verify that her husband died. Even one witness is enough, and the Gemara over there talks about how that's allowed, right? It's bari. Anyway, but the point is, it says over there, hoira. So it uses the language of being moira hara. V'holcha, v'kilkula, and then she goes, and she is engaged in znos afterwards. V'yachach ba'bayla, then after she has bia with her husband, chayeves b'karbon, then in that situation, she's a chayev in a carbon. She was always there. What happened is she was therefore always married the whole time. Lafi shlo haisa toyel bebeis din. The reason why is because she was not toyel bebeis din. Me'tani hayra lo beis din lehinas lokatani hatirua beis din. Shema minas says Rashi do nigmar hayra ad sheyamru mutar matem lasois. So the fact that you just said hayra is actually not enough. Shlo hatirua ella lehinase. All they did was they martyred her to get married, but not to be engaged in znos. Anyway, so again, the point is that using the sensitivity of the language, it's necessary to actually use the language according to the sheet of mutar matem lasois. Some ravina afanametanina higher basin lavor, focusing on that word, that they paskin that you should violate alachas mikol mitzvah somewhere b'tayra. So that's our Mishnah. loy midi. So again, there's nothing else that you need to say. There's nothing else you need to say. Says Rashi. Damash mahoy reis in the lasois. Denu gemur harasam an shirma mutar matem lasois. Okay. The sulo, fine. So ikli amri, some say Omer Shmuel ein based in chayavin an shirma hem mutar matem lasois. Rabbi Nardo and I feel mutar matem even if you don't say the word lasois. Nigmar hara, then it's nigmar hara. We didn't learn that. How could you tell me you don't need to say lasois? But we learned the hari chazal ear, but the zakin mamre who goes back to the state of Mishana or limit kader shalim potter hayro lasois chayiv. So we see that it's necessary to be hayro lasois. So Rabbi Avo v'holo tanani hachi. It says haroi la basin lanase v'halcha v'kakula chayiv mekarbon shoetiru el lanase. So Ravina v'holo tanan hachi harba basin lavor alachas v'kol mitzvah somewhere matayra suloi midi. So basically, we consider it to be an issue based on, as we said, that it's necessary to say lasos. And then the Mishnah said, so the Yachid went and he ended up violating, but he only did it based on the actions on the psak of the Beis Din. So in that case, he's going to be potter. So v'nistiv yasal pihem. So shaygeg lamuli. Why do you have to throw in the word shaygeg? So amarava shaygeg le'asui. It's coming to tell you to include even the case of har Beis Din shechelev mutter. Again, chelev is not kosher. Shuman is kosher fats. But for whatever reason, they pass in the chelev, which is not kosher. They said it's allowed. V'nischalef le'chel b'shuman v'achlu potter. And what happened? This person was about to eat shuman, which is kosher, and he thought that this is what he was eating, but he ended up eating chelev instead. So in that situation, he's also potter. Now, even though the truth is, he wasn't eating, he at the end of the day, he ate chelev, which is not kosher. But the reason why he ate the chelev is not really because he was told he's allowed to do it, because he thought he was about to eat shuman. He made a mistake and ended up eating chelev. So you would think that maybe in that situation, that he would taki be chayiv. So the chiddush is in that case also he's also potter. Says Rashi, shaygagan shahura based in shechelev mutter v'neschavol chel b'shuman v'achlu, and he ate it the potter. He's going to potter. Says Rashi, afal gav d'loy havi al piyam mamish. He didn't really eat the non-kosher fat because they told him to. Ushlo neschavin ka'achale. He actually didn't have intention to eat it. Based on their psak, nonetheless, he's still going to be potter. Doesn't have to bring a carb. Okay, al piyam mamish. When it says al piyam, means al piyam mamish. Okay, v'ikad amri. Some say amarava shagig al piyam hu the potter. It's only if it's mamish based on what they tell you to do. They say you are allowed to eat this non-kosher fat. You're allowed to eat this chelev. Alvan neschalef l'chel b'shum d'velchu chayiv. Maybe, again, even though he did eat the chelev, but he didn't do it because it was al piyam. It wasn't through their words that he ate it. He ate it because it was a mistake. So maybe in that situation, tak would be chayiv to bring carb. So miltab shita le'urava can boil le'urava rachamo, which was simple to him, is actually a kasha. The morava rachamo hard base of shechav mutter. The schafel b'shumin the yachol, and he ate the chelev mahu. So marava tashma halach yachid. You have an individual that went v'asa shaygeg al piyam b'chul. So again, that's what our Mishnah said. So this guy, he ended up violating. He ate something. So shaygeg al piyam lamuli. Again, why does it say shaygeg? Lav, is it not? Lesuye come to include the case of har beis shchel mutar schaful chel b'shuman yachol potter. So maybe it's coming to tell us that also in that case, you're potter. Even though you didn't eat the chelev because Beis Din told you to do it, you did it because you made a mistake. Nonetheless, you're still potter. No. Dilma shagel al pihem hu the potter. Maybe taki you are chayiv in that case. It's not necessarily a good diuk. My love, is it not? Shagel al pihem hu the potter. Only due to their ruling, that because they told you, go ahead, eat this chelev. Avol neschalvol chel b'shumin v'chayiv. So our answer is no, Dilma oy shoigig o al pihem. So again, it's not so clear in this scenario whether you would be chayav carbon. Okay, the plugdom with regard to, okay, let's just see where we are. Okay, let me make sure we didn't go too far in the Rashi. Okay, beplugda. In regard to this argument, we have a case like this. Har based in shechelav mutter. Again, the chelav is mutter, but it's chalful chelav b'shumen. V'achlu Rav Omer Potter, Rav Yochanan Omer Chayev. So we see taka. It's a machlokus in this situation. So again, he wasn't relying on the ruling of Beis Din, who said that chelav is permitted. He intended to eat shuman. He ended up eating chelav, but he wasn't relying on them. So in that situation, the question is, even though he would have eaten the chelav due to the psak of Beis Din, so is he chayav a carbon or not? So that is the entirety of the question. So meisvei, so it says like this: Miyam aretz la soisa. So the pasuk says, let's just read the whole pasuk over here. V'im nefesh achas techata b'shgog. If you have a person that sinned, he did something b'shaygeg. Miyam aretz ba soisa. So it says, Miyam haaretz ba soisa, and he did achas memitzvos Hashem asher lo siyasen v'ashem. So he violated one of the transgressions. Prat l'mummer. So we say that's coming to exclude someone who is a mummer. Says Rashi, me'em haaretz la soisa v'al kol am haaretz v'lo kol am haaretz. It says mi, from, which means it's only it must be coming as a mia to exclude. That's why it's coming to exclude a mummer. Deinu maybe carbanoshka gasai. Dein mekablon miyadai. So when it comes to a mummer, because of their in disinterest in adhering to the mitzvahs properly, again, it doesn't really say it's a mummer, but at least at this point, we're saying a mummer is someone who is excluded, that he would not bring a carbon when he violates b'shaygeg. Okay. Rav Shimon ben Yosi Omer Rav Shimon ain't no tzarech. You don't need that. Because Horiot Omer, the pasuk says, the Oshem, Oy Hoida. So what does it say? The pasuk, and this is also in Sefer Vayikra Perek Daled, a few psukim before that, it says Asher Nasi Yechata. So you have a leader that sins. V'yas Aksmechol Mitzvos Hashem Elkav. Asher Lo Sena B'Shkag V'Ashem. So he violates one of the sins. This is Oy Hoidolav Chataso Asher Chata. He recognizes one of the sin that he did. The Havias Karbanai, and he has to bring a carbon, either Seir Izim. He has to bring a Seir Izim Zachar Tamim, because there's a Nasi. There's a special carbon of a male goat. Okay. Anyway, so regarding this pasuk, Hashiv Midiyasai, maybe carbon Ashkagaso. It says that he recognized his mistake, and therefore the diuk is, it's only someone who wishes to do tshuva. Hashem yediyasa maybe carbon ashkagasai, loisha midiyasai. But if he's not going to do tshuva anyway, so enu maybe carbon ashkagasai. So therefore, you don't need a pasuk to exclude someone who is a mummer from the pasuk of Miyama Aretz Basaisa, because we already learned out from here, it's only Ashelos Yasena Bishkaga, right? It's because he really wouldn't have violated it otherwise, he just made a mistake, right? Which means that otherwise, he, upon his recognition, right, or Haidolov, he recognized his sin, which means that he would not have wanted to have sinned, and therefore he will do tshuva on the fact that he sinned, which means someone who's a mummer is someone who will not have that. So if we look in Rashi, a mummer she'ochel chaylev, he eats these non-kosher fats, so maybe carbon al dam. One second. Umummer lo shomi yadiyasai. Who lafikach enu maybe carbon oshkagaso. Yermo kamon. We're going to see in the second parak. Says Rashi, mummer she'ochel chaylev. If he ate non-kosher fat, maybe carbon al dam, but he brought a carbon for something else that he did. is the nafka between these two shitas. Halchanami ki hora basin shechel mutter, just like in there, so too when basin would say that non-kosher fat is actually good to eat, you're allowed to eat. But you made a mistake and you thought it was shuman, you ate chalev, lo sham yadiyasahu. That's not a case where you be shom yadiyasai, because you didn't realize that you made a mistake, right? That's why you're chayiv. The ha'hora basin shechel mutter. So in the event where the beis din would tell you it's mutter, so it's not a case where you could retract because you would have been listening to what they said. The kasher of Yochanan the chayiv the toy ba'atzmahu. Okay, so we'll understand this in a second. Just read through this. Im isa halo shel miyasahu. So again, that's the kasha, because in this situation, it's only when the beis din tells you to do it. However, in this case, the beis din didn't tell you to do it, so maybe in this situation you would be potter. So Omer Rav Papa Ksav Rav Yochi Vandachi Mis Yada Lahud Lebeidina Hadri Bahu, that as soon as you know about it, the beis din will retract. Vahu Nami Hadirbe, and he would retract. Shamid Yaso Karinan Be B'chayev. That's considered to be like retracting. So this is how Rav Papa explains this. So says Rashi, v'chayev carbon shari lo tola kol kach bebeis din. You're not really relying on what the beis din said in this case. Shul also al pi mamish, again, because you didn't eat the chela because you were told to. V'yamtu ha'ochi, and therefore that reason, says Rashi, come Rav Yochanan to the chayev carbon. Right? Because again, you were relying on this was yourself. This was not you're relying on your beis din, right? That's why you ate it. Also al pi mamish. The case where you mamish listened to the beis din, afagav the ilo havi yadi le beis din havi hader bahu. Vahu nami havi hader be. Even though they would retract, you would retract. Shom yadiyasai afil hachi and afil hachi potter. Okay. All right. So let's continue. So v'hu nami hader be shomi diaso karinan be v'chayev. Amar Rav Maida Rav, but Rav will agree shena mashlim u'rayv tzibor, that this individual, even if you want to tell me that maybe he's chayev, but nonetheless he's not going to combine to the tzibor. In other words, as we said, in order for the beis din to have to bring a par helm davar shel tzibor, it's only when the rov makes the mistake. So this person who made the mistake and ate non-kosher fats, but he didn't eat the non-kosher fat because again beis din told him to. He did it because he made a mistake on his own. So even if you want to tell me whether or not he's chayev or potter, nonetheless, he's certainly not able to combine to equal a rov to require par helm shel tzibor. My time omer kro b'shkoga, actually kulin b'shkoga achas. They must be the same mistake, not a different mistake. Here his mistake was that he thought it was shuman. Everyone else is because they were soimich on the psak of beis din, and therefore that's the reason why it doesn't work. Question 3. Ha'ira beis din shechel motem neschalaful chelev b'shuman velchol Rav omer potter. Rav Yochanan mechayev. So again, even according to Rav, who says you're potter, okay, we'll get to that. Kasha Rav Yochanan. So he had a kasha. So one way answer. It's not a case of shamia diyaso that you do tshuva. So he says kivan di'ilu havi yadig lebeis in the toe. If he would have known that beis din made a mistake, havi hader be im habeis din. So he would have retracted with the beis din shamia diyaso kriyan be. So it's considered to be shamia diyaso. Okay. And then the last question is le'inyan ma moida Rav d'loi chashvin li shosel gami haros beis din, again to be mitzdarf to roiv. Or it says in moida Rav the mitzdarf to roiv tzibor shosel haros beis din the maybe mevian par. So the par helm shel tzibor would not be brought in that case. Okay. Let's see if there's another question here. Okay, let's hold off on maybe this. Okay. TA, TB, that shouldn't be here, TC, so this is TB, 1 second. Okay. Horiot based in Hoch Yachli Yasa Shagal Pihem Potter. Lamaikatani Shaygeg Nisni V'Asal Pihem. So that we had, and it's Arohuai says Bishvil Shehu Saver Mitzvah Lishmo De V'Chachamim. Huai says Al Das Basin. Also Potter Carbon Chatzas Yachad. Actually Yosal Pihem B'Lishag V'Sar Shneim Yos Potter. This is not the correct answer. Horiot based in B'Holach HaYachid V'Yasa Shaygeg Al Pihem Potter. Ma'ikatani Shaygeg Nisni V'Asal Pihem. So this is the Gemara we said before. So it's coming to tell you, Asui Horiot based in Shechel Mutim Nischal Fulchel B'Shuman B'Achul. That's what we're looking for over here. Okay, that's TB1. Okay, which is Beis and Aleph. And I'm just going to cross this whole thing out, because that does not look correct. All right, let's just see. By the way, maybe I have the answers over here. That would be nice. Well, that would be nice, but I don't. Okay. All right, let's keep on moving. Let's continue. So, it says, Bein Shiasu V'Yasu Mohen. It doesn't make any difference. If the Basin did it before you, the Basin did it after you, or you did it without the Basin's doing, doesn't make any difference. So, Lomula Misti Kohani. What is the whole point of mentioning all this? Pishlam Eresha Lozu Av Zukatani. It's telling you not only this, but even in this case, even if it's this, if it's that. So, in all those situations, you're going to be potter. El Seifa. When it comes to if it's come to like a build-up, so then that would be a build-up that even in that case you're potter. Even in a situation where you did it in the base, even a situation that only you did it and the basin didn't do it, so in that case maybe we think you're chayiv, because it doesn't look like the basin really believes what they said if they themselves didn't do it. Nonetheless, you're potter. So then when the case is that you're chayiv, because you listened to the psak of the Beis Din, right? You didn't mamish because of the words that they said, right? So then in that situation, it'd be flipped around, would be the more logical order. So as we continue Beis with Beis, Zub in Sarach Loimer Zukadani. So you're right. You can say this, and there's of course this. So one is not only this, and here's a bigger chiddush, and this one is, I don't even have to tell you this. Okay, like sometime again you can just answer push it. That sometimes, in order for there to be consistency in the language, especially that people are saying this by heart, they didn't change it, even though flipping it would actually be the bigger chiddush. So in that case, the Sefer of the Mishnah says you're chai because you knew that they were wrong, so therefore you are not toila al das Beis Din. Therefore, because of that, you're going to be chayiv to bring your own carbon. Tarti lumli. So why do you have to mention these two cases? Either someone from the Beis Din made a mistake, they knew there was a mistake, or one of the students. So Oimerava Itzrach, something like you would think, Hanimili Gomer V'Saver. So you would think only time that would be the case is if you learn and you understand. It says Rashi, Lomad Hadavar, the Savar Maven Davar Mitaik Davar, which is like a deeper level of understanding. Of a Gomer V'Loit Savar Lo. You would think maybe you don't have the deeper level of understanding one thing from the other. Maybe that doesn't constitute as someone who can actually paskin. Therefore, you're not going to be chayiv. Still, in that case, you're still chayiv. Amalei Abaye with regarding to paskin, gomer v'saver mashma. That in itself is mashma gomer saver. So, what do you mean? It's like coming to add something. It's obviously when it says v'roi lahora, that's referring to someone who's gomer v'saver. So Amalei anahachi coming to the This is what I mean. Imahi havamina hanamili gomer v'saver. I would only know someone who actually has this deeper level of knowledge. Of a gomer v'loit saver lo. You would think that someone who does not have this higher level, not. So Tana royal hara, mimishni Sarah, from this extra case, I feel gomer v'loit saver, saver lo gomer. So actually it's the opposite. That even if a person only has this less knowledge, if you will, but they have some ability to decipher and to learn, that even in that case, that would suffice that they would be chayiv to bring a carbon. Royal hara v'chulu. So Kagoin man. Why exactly are we talking about like the student and not a judge? So Merava Kagoin Shimon ben Azai, Shimon ben Zoima. So these were young scholars, says Rashi, they were sitting in front of the Chachamim, and they were certainly fit to be able to be more hara. Ben Azai and Ben Zoima, in fact, are said they're among the 4 people that went into Pardes, among the most brilliant minds of all humanity. So that's coming to include people like them. So Amalei Abaya, Ki Hai Gavna Mezidhu, I understand. If you are of the mind of a Ben Azai or Ben Zoima, and you know that they made a mistake, so where's the B'shoigeg that be a a carbon? They obviously, their action was b'mezid, says Rashi. Shimon ben Azai and Shimon ben Zoima ki hagavna di yadi shiatol. They knew it was a mistake. They feel hachi also. They did it. Amaycha ben carbon from a zida ninhu. Amazing ben a carbon who. You only bring a carbon when there's an actual. It was a b'shoigeg. So l'taimei according to you, Hadasan, it says ba'asoy sa. When it says ba'asoy sa in the pasuk, just trying to find the pasuk over here. There's only pasuk that's quoted in this whole daf. This whole amid, that you do this violation of the Torah. So yachid shasim epi atzmo chayev. An individual who does it on his own mistake is chayev. But haras based in potter. However, if he does this based on the psak of the based in, he's potter ketzad. So what ketzad hor based in? What is this case where based in told you it's allowed? Shechel motor. He said that this non-kosher fat is ought to be eaten. But noida. It was known from one of the members of the Beis Din. They made a mistake. Talmud Yoshem Lefnehem, another student that knew Royal Horiot, going Shimon ben Azai, and it says explicitly his name, Shimon ben Azai. Yochli Potter. You think he'd be Potter? So what do we learn from that? Yochid Ha'isol Piatz Mochayev. Only when you do it on your own, but it's Baharas based in your Potter. So in this situation, Shimon ben Azai did this on his. He did this on his al piatzmo. That's what he's chayiv. El heichem shkachskla kigoin diyadid aser. It must be he knew that he was. So why does he have to bring a carbon? After all, isn't he amazed? The katoi b'mitzvah shmodi v'chachamim. So he made a mistake because he thought, even though it's b'mezid, but maybe I should still listen to the chachamim and to do what they're supposed to do, because based on what they tell me to do. So that's what it means. So going back, as you said, a hara is a gomer of a saver. So these 2 cases teach us, as we said, even without gomer. And over here, so Rashi says that afil lemevet isura. Maybe you're supposed to listen to the chachamim even to do something wrong. So they thought maybe I have to listen to the chachamim so far, even if there's a mistake, because maybe that's even that you're required to do. Question 4. Okay, let's keep going. So then it says zeh klal hatoyla ba'atzmo chayev. So what does that mean when you're thinking it's based on your own doing that you're chayev? So l'sui mevayit b'hara, someone who literally kicks the psak. What does that mean? So let's see Rashi. Rashi says, "Sheim hayragul liyos mevayit b'hara." You typically are like denying the psak of a Beis Din. V'yachakal charish shechel mutter. And then afterwards, they paskin that this is non-kosher fat is mutter. The one who generally is mavit, the yosal pihem, and he ends up doing what they say. The chayiv. In that situation, he is chayiv. Well, what do you mean? He listened to what the Beis Din said, but usually he doesn't. Hoyol behu ragul yos mevait hashtanami mevat. We say that you would think that since he normally kicks and rebels, so too now also. Maybe you would think fakert, that he's still doing it on his own, because he's not usually listening to the Beis Din anyway. Hilcha chayev carbon. So therefore the chiddush is that in this situation he's still chayav to bring a carbon, even though the Beis Din said chaylev is mutter, and he ate chaylev, which seems to mean that he did it based on the Beis Din and not on himself. So the answer is no, because he's mevayit b'hara, so therefore he's going to be chayav to bring a carbon because he did it. He did it based on, as it says, he was toyle b'atzmo. So he's still toyle b'atzmo even in that case. Okay, so that's what that means. All right, so that's the chiddush. Toyle b'beis din lesuye, that in the case you would be potter, is lesuye hora beis din v'yoda shetov v'chazu b'hen. So what is this case? Says Rashi. So first of all, it's the Beis Din paskind, right? V'yoda in yishatoi, and you knew that they made a mistake. V'chazu b'hen, and then you retracted to listen to them. So in that situation, we say that you were actually toyle b'beis din, even though originally you thought they made a mistake, but you were chayzer. So therefore, we say you're chay because you're still toyle b'beis din. That we learned that beferish already in a later on Mishnah. I guess we're supposed to know that Reb Shimon says you're pot in that case. So Tani b'hadam mefarish. Fine. Question 4. Mivoid b'hara v'yasal pi beis din shehu chaylev mutter im chashiv ka'isal pi beis din l'poitros. The answer is just no. Lo chashiv oisal pi beis din, and therefore you're chayav. Question 4b. Her beis din v'yoda shetov v'chazu b'hen v'yasal al pihem im chashiv ka'isa al pi beis din liftor. So we say in that situation, since you're actually listening eventually to the din of the Beis Din, so according to Rav Shimon, chashiv ka'isa hara Beis Din, and therefore you're potter. However, we're going to see Rav Shimon oimer suffik, okay, which we didn't really see that yet, but that's what that says. Fine. All right, let's keep going. Omer Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shmuel. Zu divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's what Rabbi Yehuda holds. Al chachamim oimrim yach she'oisa b'haras beis din chayev. So, unlike what we said up until now, the din is that if an individual does the hara of beis din, you're still chayev. So even though our Mishnah said that the only time you're chayev is if you do it on your own, but if you listen to the Beis Din, you're potter, unless to bring this kisva, or unless again if it's the roiv, then the Beis Din has to bring a param shel tzibor. But if it's just a yachid, it doesn't have to do anything. But that's not everyone's opinion. According to the chachamim, they taka hold that a yachid does have to bring a carbon even b'haras Beis Din. So my Rabbi Yehuda Sanya, im never shakas. It's 3 exclusions. In the situation where you did it on your own, chayiv b'haras beis din potter. However, it's based on the haras beis din, you're a potter. So that's what we derive. And my rabbanon. So what exactly is this sheet? The Sanya. Adainani aimer miet kahal she chatu. If, let's say, the minority of the kahal sinned, chayavin. So in that situation, those individuals had to bring their own carbon, but there wouldn't be a par elam shel tzibor, shein beis din mevi'in el yedein par. So the logic is that in the event where, even though it was done al das beis din, but if it wasn't, only when there's a majority of people that followed the erroneous ruling of the beis din, would we say that there's a par helm delver shel tzibor, which is mashma if the par is not brought, so you got to do something. A bunch of people did things wrong, so those people are still mechuyev to have to bring a carbon. Roiv kahal shechatu yehi paturin shehari beis din mavi'in al yedehin par. So if the miyat, there's only miyat, so the yachid brings a carbon chatos. But with the roiv, then the beis din will bring a par, right? Then the Beis Din will bring a par. So that's the logic behind that. Talmud Lemer mi'am haaretz afil ruba befil kula, that even the majority, even kula are chayv a carbon. So b'mai ileim b'mishkagas ma'isa Beis Din shaloi b'hoira, and the Beis Din didn't give any ruling. Beis Din ma'avidatayu. So what did they do? Shloi b'haras Beis Din. Beis Din mimaisi shlo b'hara. So why would the Beis Din have to bring a carbon if they didn't paskin? Ela b'hoira. It must be obviously they paskin incorrectly. V'ha kiksiv miyam aretz b'shkagas ma'isa hudiksiv. It's talking about these words is not with a ruling of is apparently not with a ruling of Beis Din. El lav hachikamer miat kahal shechatu b'shkagas ma'isa. If the miat makes a mistake, chayavin. Shein Beis Din mavin al yidin par b'hoira. Ha-hein chayavin. But the people themselves are still chayav to bring a chatos. Yochel roiv tzi b'shasa b'shkagas ma'isa hipaturin. You would think if the majority of the people sin, there'd be potter. Shahari Beis Din mavin alehin par b'hoira. Because maybe since the Beis Din has to bring a part of Davashal Tzibor, now the Yachid doesn't have to do anything anymore. Talmud Lema Aretz Afil Rubo, which means that there's a chiv chatas no matter what, whether there's a roiv or even if there's a miyad, even if there's a roiv. So if there's a rov, then the Beis Din has to bring a part of Davashal Tzibor. However, in the situation where, regardless, the individual still has a chiv carbon chatas. So again, this is the incredible opinion that says that when it comes to being told das Beis Din, still there's a din that you're chayav to bring a carbon chatas, which again not everyone holds. Some people say, as our Mishnah seems to say, they're only mechuyev a carbon is dafkos al das atzmo, but not das not if it was das Beis Din. Okay, so Omar Papa, so Mamai Dilma Ha-Hain Lo Hain V'lo Beis Din. Maybe how do we know by a Yachid with Horas Beis Din? Maybe maybe the Yachid is potter, just like the Beis Din is potter to bring a par. So maybe the Yachid doesn't have to bring a chatas at all, right? So maybe again, it's interesting. Just like when it comes to a Yachid, there's no requirement for the Beis Din to have to bring a par Helam Davashal Tzibor. Maybe also when it comes to a Yachid, he doesn't have to bring a carbon at all either. So if that's the case, my area to mekahader al rubel chayuva. What does it mean when it says that when there's a majority, there's a chiyuv? V'amachla debiyud bahora kaimale mechayava bahora v'neheder bereshal miyudim mechayv b'shkagas ma'isa v'sayim nehader al rubel chayuva b'shkagas ma'isa el lav midaloi mehader al miyut demechayavin al shkagas ma'isa. Since it doesn't say that when it comes to a minority who is chayiv on an action, v'say mahader al ruba chayuva, and then for it to say, if there's a majority that there's a chayiv b'shkagas ma'isa, shmamina miyad b'hora chayavin hein kispa v'seira. It's coming to tell you that when there's even with a miyut, they are mechuyev to bring a carbon. Shaloi b'hora b'shkagas ma'isa chayavin, and without the psak of Horas Beis Din, they're also chayiv. So michti tervayu stami. Tnan, so Mamai de Kamaiser Behuda Ubasraisa Rabbanan, Ema Ibcha. How do we know one is how do we know which one is which? So Man Shamalhe de Darish Miyuti Ki Haigavna. Who's the one who makes a drasha to exclude things? That's Yehuda. The sign of Yehuda Aimer. As we continue to Gimel Mad Aleph, it says Zois Taras Oila He. So you have all these different words in this pasuk of Savis Aaron ves Banav Lamer Zois Taras Oil, the beginning of Parsha Sav. This is the din of the oil offering. He oila al moikdal mizbech kol halayla, the biker. It's at night till day. Ve'esh hamizbech tukad bo, and the fire consumes it. So it says Zois Taras ha oil and he. Hari elu shloishim yutin. So the Zos, ha oila, and he. These are all exclusions, and therefore. This is, as Rashi says, Hari Elu Shloshim Yuti, Chad Prat Lenishcha Tabalayla. One is if it was shechted at night, Chad Prat Lenishbach Dama, you spilled the blood, Chad Prat Leitzias Dama Chutz Lekilayim. If the blood was removed outside of the designated area, Shim also al Gamim Mizbeach, that if it was on the Mizbeach, Tered, then it's supposed to go down. Because it's not going to be the proper oila if these things were done not properly. Okay, The boy say Madainani Aimer Lo Masas Mukmal Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe we don't establish like Rabbi Yehuda. Tani Rav Kahal Shechatu. It says the majority of people that sinned. Based in that situation, based in Mevin Al Yadein Par. Now the Rabbi Yehuda Ha'Aimer Tzibor Hudamaisi. It says only the Tzibor has to bring a carbon. Based in Lo, but not the basin. None. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Shiva Shvatim Shechatu Mevin Zayin Parim. It says that actually when it comes to 7 Shvatim that sinned, so then you have to bring 7 separate karbanos. Says Rashi, Dahavi Roiv Shvatim. So in that situation, as we said, you need Roiv. So it doesn't necessarily mean you need Roiv of the population. You just have the majority of the Shvatim to have to bring a Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibor. So if you had that, then you have to bring actually 7 cows. Why? Except Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds the Shevet Echad Ikri Kahal. When it says that you have to bring a carbon, it means each one. Vehein Mavian, they're the ones that bring it. V'lo Basin. Actually, the Basin is not the one who has to bring it, but rather it is the Shevet the Shvatim themselves. Okay, let's see maybe another couple of questions. Let's look at question 4. Mavayit Hara. Okay, we did that. Okay, let's look at question TA 29. Be'elu fanim yachid she'asa b'haras based in chayev. Where do we find that an individual who did listen to the haras based in that you're still chayev, right? Apparently, we said you're a potter. So either we're talking about biyoyde echad mehem sheto. If let's say you knew that they had made a mistake, or was a Talmud that knew they passed incorrectly, so in that case, that's a situation where a Yachid who does Horas based in your Chayiv, O Mivayit B'Horah, so in that case you would be Chayiv. Okay, Adkan.